Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over another theory crafting leveling build for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Now my last video I went over the actual leveling build I plan on using when the game is released, and that build was Graveborn main and Spellshot secondary. So now I want to kind of flip that and do a Spellshot main and Graveborn secondary and try to follow the same type of build that I did in that last build guide, in case there's anybody that wants to do a spell shot first but also wants to use a similar type of leveling build. And I'll also have a link to this build calculator site in the description, and I'll have a link to my specific build, so you can just copy that link and save it somewhere if you want to use the exact same build and have all the points in the same spots. And I'm going to be putting the points in like I was actually leveling in the game, and going off of that we're only going to have our spell shots until level 25, then we unlock the Graveborn, so keep that in mind when we're putting these points in. So first off, our class feat for the spell shot is spell weaving. Casting a spell or reloading a weapon grants a spell shot a stack of spell weaving, increasing spell damage. Spell weaving stacks automatically decay after a few seconds. Casting a repeating spell has a chance to award additional spell weaving stacks with each repeating cast. And as we'll go over later in this build, some of the spells you should be looking out for are dark magic spells and repeating spells. Those are going to have some synergies with our build going forward. So then for our action skill, we're going to be using Ambihextrous. The spell shot may equip a spell into their action skill slot. Whenever the spell shot presses the action skill button, they cast that spell. So instead of our action skill, we just get 2 spell slots. Now if you don't understand the terminology, action skills are your class abilities and spells are what are replacing the grenade mods from other games. But in Wonderlands, the spells are built as smaller, more frequently used action skills. So for our passives, we're going to start off with Spell Sniper, gained increase spell critical hit chance. And this build is going to be heavily focused on using spells, so more critical hit chance with spells, going to be a massive damage increase. We're going to be putting 5 points into that. Then we're going to be putting 5 points into Font of Mana. Gain increase spell cooldown rate and gain increased action skill cooldown rate. And I'm not exactly sure how this works, but I'm pretty sure with Ambihextrous, the replaced action skill slot goes off of all spell statting. So both of our spells would just get the spell cooldown rate and spell damage increases. So we're putting 5 points into Font of Mana. Then we're going to be putting a point into Mage Armor. Whenever the Fate Maker gains a stack of spell weaving, they restore a portion of their ward. Now warding is just shielding in Wonderlands, and this is going to make you much tankier because anytime you reload or cast a spell, you're also going to gain back a chunk of your ward. And we're going to be casting spells all the time, especially with Ambihextrous. Then we're going to be putting a point into Glass Cannon. The Fate Maker's ward no longer automatically recharges, but they gain drastically increased spell damage. Now with Glass Cannon, you can still regen your ward through certain effects like Mage Armor. Now while leveling up, if you feel like you're too squishy after tanking this and you're dying too much, you can just go put another point into some other talent. I'm not exactly sure how squishy this is going to make you and how much spell damage it's going to give you, so you can change this out while leveling if it makes you too squishy. Then we're going to be putting 3 points into Magic Bullets. A portion of all bonuses the Fate Maker receives to spell damage is applied to their guns. So any spell damage increases now makes our guns do more damage, and this build definitely has a good amount of synergies between your spells and your guns. Then we're going to be putting 1 point into High Thread Count, gain increased max spell weaving stacks. And as we get more into the build and with Ambihextrous, we're going to be able to keep spell weaving stacked up quite a bit. Then next we have Imbued Weapon. Whenever the Fate Maker casts a spell, their guns deal bonus damage of that spell's element for a short time. This effect stacks once per spell. Now I'm not exactly sure how this stacking works. I'm assuming that since we have Ambihextrous, we can stack this up twice because it's explained in a different way than stacking effects from other passives. So just more gun damage off of using our spells, adding into that gun/spell synergy. Then we're going to be putting 3 points in a Double Knot. Whenever you score a critical hit with a spell, deal bonus damage equal to your gun's element. So now we're taking damage off of our guns element and adding it to our spells crits. So just adding more of that synergy with guns and spells. Then we're going to be putting 1 point into 1 slot, 1 kill, gained increased gun damage per spell weaving stack. So we're going to be getting a bunch of spell weaving stacks with our spells, and now we're getting more damage for every stack of that. Then for our capstone, we have a Sever the Thread. Gun critical hits has a chance to instantly reset all spell cooldowns. This skill has a short cooldown. So this is incredibly strong, and I think this is going to be pretty easy to proc quite a bit. First off, has a short cooldown. Second off, it resets both your spells since we have 2 spells, which is massive, just allowing ourselves to turn into even more of a turret of spell casting. And again, it adds synergies with using our guns, using our spells, using our guns, and just mixing in both of those to buff both of them up. So now we're at level 26 and we have unlocked the Graveborn. And the Graveborn's class feat is a Demi-Lich Companion. The Fatemaker is accompanied by a floating Demi-Lich Companion that targets enemies at range and deals dark magic damage. Whenever the Fatemaker casts a spell, the Demi-Lich will cast Hellish Blast, creating a homing projectile of that spell's elemental type, dealing damage to nearby enemies on impact. Any increases to the Fatemaker's damage also applies to their companions. So now we have a companion that every time we shoot a spell, they also shoot a spell that homes to enemies and does an AoE attack. So while we're turning ourselves into a turret of spells, our companion is also now turning itself into a turret of spells as well. So first off, we're going to be putting 5 points into Essence Drain, which is a kill skill plus 5% cooldown rate per level, duration 12 seconds. So it's 25% cooldown rate on every kill, last 12 seconds. You're going to be able to keep this up pretty much 100% of the time when just going through normal quests and stuff like that. And any boss that summons additional enemies, which after Borderlands 3 is most of the bosses, you will be able to keep this up on bosses as well. So just being able to spam out more and more spells. Next up, we have Sanguine Sacrament. Whenever the Fatemaker casts a spell, they regenerate health over 2 seconds. And we're putting 3 points into this, and it's 30% health over 2 seconds. So it heals you a lot very quickly after every single spell. And the entirety of this build is just allowing us to cast more and more spells. So we're just going to be healing a ridiculous amount. And if you're somebody that took out Glass Cannon while leveling up because you were too squishy, I would recommend you put it back in once you get Sanguine Sacrament, because you're just going to be able to heal your health so much that you're going to be much more tanky and shouldn't have an issue taking Glass Cannon. Then we're going to be putting 2 points into Dark Pact plus 4% dark magic damage per level. Now, like I mentioned at the start of this video, I'd recommend one of your spells being a dark magic spell, because dark magic has a leeching effect in this game, so it leeches health from the enemies you hit with it and gives you that health. So it's a really good increase to survivability, giving you a lot more healing, and this will increase the damage of that. But even if you don't have a dark magic spell, this is still going to increase our damage after we go over this next passive. So the next passive is Strain on the Soul. Spells deal plus 4% bonus dark magic damage per level. We're going to put 3 points into this. So now our spells just deal 12% bonus dark magic damage. That's not just increasing dark magic damage. This is adding dark magic damage onto the spell. So if you have, say, a fire spell, it's going to deal that fire and then take 12% of that fire damage and deal it as additional dark magic damage. So you're going to heal off of every spell you use now. So this will synergize with Dark Pact as well, but if you have a dark magic spell, it's also just going to increase its damage off of both of these passives. Then our last point we're going to be putting into Dread Covenant. 35% of damage taken by the Fatemaker is redirected to their Demi-Lich. Whenever the Fatemaker reaches 1 health, they immediately restore 75% of their maximum health, sacrificing the Demi-Lich. Has a cooldown of 120 seconds. So this is just a really good solo passive. So first off, you're going to be taking a lot less damage anytime your Demi-Lich is alive, and then you have a cheat death effect on it. So if you would essentially die, instead you sacrifice your Demi-Lich and heal up 75% of your maximum health. Having that as a solo player is pretty big. And that is the entirety of this leveling build. And like I mentioned, this is a leveling build. Not sure how strong this would be into the end game, and you will most likely be changing up your passives and what you want to use once you get into the game, once we learn all the different items and different synergies. But I do think this is going to be a very good build for leveling up through the game. I think it's going to give you a good mix of really good damage synergies between your guns and spells, and give you some good options for survivability. So subscribe if you want to see more Wonderlands or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this leveling build, and thanks for watching.